Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. A beautiful Monday morning here in West Texas. So much to get into throughout the rest of the program. Here shortly, we'll be visiting with the Lieutenant Governor. Looking forward to visiting with him about the Second Amendment, expanded background checks, and more. Obviously, the Lieutenant Governor making quite a bit of news over the last few weeks with this idea of expanded background checks that really has everybody talking. No one really in Texas was talking about expanded background checks, and the Lieutenant Governor sort of set things off by embracing expanded background checks, which really surprised everybody. And got everybody talking. Got the NRA talking. Got us talking here on radio about expanded background checks. The governor was talking about it. And you also have President Trump who was talking about expanded background checks as well. And so this is something that is not only a statewide discussion that is taking place, but it's a national discussion that is taking place as well. And so we'll be visiting with the Lieutenant Governor right now. Here we go. We go to the phones, and joining us here on KFYO, the Lieutenant Governor of our great state, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, good to be with you.
Always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's always great to have you. We'll just dive right into it. You came up, I guess, this idea of expanded background checks. I know that we'll cut to the heart of it. You don't want expanded background checks for family members. You don't want expanded background checks for friends, for friendships, people giving a gun or selling a gun to a friend. But you are entertaining the idea of expanded background checks for stranger-to-stranger sales. Why is that?
Yes. Okay, great question, Chad, and you framed it very well. And when you said to bring it up basically for conversation, Chad, I was out in Midland a few weeks ago after the shooting and spent a lot of time in El Paso. And Greg Abbott and I have been, unless you're a chaplain in Texas, I don't know of anyone who's been to more funerals and memorial services and visiting people in the hospitals than the governor and myself. And we've had 5 shootings, Chad, in the last 4 years: Dallas, Sutherland Springs, Santa Fe, El Paso, and Midland. And behind each shooting has been a different method of the way a person got the gun. A student maybe from their past, I don't want to be sued here by accusing the parents, but a student who was able to get guns he should not have been able to get in Santa Fe, the killer in Sutherland Springs who should have been stopped from getting a gun in a background check, but the Air Force didn't follow up as they should have with the paperwork, and so he wasn't stopped. And then in Midland, still under investigation, but we know that the shooter there who killed 7 people was denied a gun in a background check, but was still able to get one. So here are the facts, Chad. And I want this to be a discussion issue because this is a multi-pronged issue. It's violent video games. It's social media. It's mental health. It is the federal government not doing their job totally in a lot of cases on these background checks. But we have to have this for discussion, Chad. Here's the facts. The NRA themselves estimate that 90% of people who buy guns today, or near 90%, go through a background check. The federal government estimates it's about 80%. And the reason they're estimates is because we don't know how many people are selling guns, family to family, friends to friends, and stranger to stranger. But it's a high percentage. And so let's just take the difference, 85% between the state and, between the Fed estimate and the NRA estimate. That means about 15% of the people who buy guns in America don't get a background check. And we'll estimate, and it's an estimate because we don't know the exact, that half of those are family and friends. So there's somewhere between 5 and 7 or 8% of Americans who buy guns are buying them stranger to stranger. And the question is, why do we allow this to happen? Because we know, Chad, that it's not the gun. I'm totally against banning AR-15s. Look, I own AR-15s, AK-47. I own all the guns. I've always had an A+ or an A rating with the NRA. We are one of the most gun-friendly states in the country. I'm pro-Second Amendment all the way. I don't want a national registry, don't want to ban weapons, etc. But on this issue, I just think the NRA is wrong. And I think that we need to, it doesn't mean I'm at war with them. I just say, look, I'm a member, I'm a gun owner, I have an opinion on this, is that I don't know why we carve out this exception for where, Chad, a person can sell a gun to someone they don't know who that person is and what their record is. Again, it's not the gun. We always hear it's the person. So why would we in Texas or America allow someone to sell a gun to someone who could be a felon, could be someone ready to commit a crime or domestic violence, or could be someone who is mentally unstable and shouldn't have one? And that's the question. Not trying to stop the sale, Chad. I'm not trying to stop the sale. I'm just saying you have to get a background check on that person.
The NRA says that this would lead to a gun registry. That if this was going to work, and that's the key thing, if we were actually going to try and stop something, that this would lead to the universal background check. That would lead to a gun registry. So that way we know we have traces of where all the guns are being sold. Do you believe that's true?
No, it's just hyperbole. And I read an editorial recently by someone in Texas who wrote the same thing. It's just wrong. And here's the reason. Again, take the NRA number. Nearly 90% of all people get a background check today. There is no national gun registry. There isn't. So why would just asking for someone, in other words, if you want to sell a gun to a stranger, just saying, look, you got to get a background check on that person before you sell a gun. I mean, any responsible person would want to do that. No one, Chad, that I know, intentionally or unintentionally, who's a gun owner, no one would want to sell a gun to someone they thought was going to go commit a crime. They just wouldn't do it. So just get the background check. There is no requirement for any registry, no more than there is the current system we have. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Again, 80 to 90% of all people who buy a gun get a background check. We don't have a national registry. So saying to you, let's just say, and again, you wouldn't do it, but let's say Joe Smith out there wants to sell his gun to someone he doesn't know. We're just saying get a background check. No, there's no paper trail behind it. Just so that's a bogus argument. Look, we don't know I have some information I can't share because it's classified, but there have been some stories leaked to the media. We know that this killer in Midland failed a background check, but he got a gun. And was it a stranger? Was it a friend? We don't know exactly yet, but he shouldn't have had that gun. And there are 7 people dead today because he shouldn't have a gun. Look, Chad, there are 3 ways.
But do you think that would have stopped him? Because we see in Chicago, Republicans always talk about Chicago being very strict on guns. Right. Would another law have stopped him?
Well, here's the problem. I don't want to go down that rabbit trail, but let me just answer that question. One of the problems, right now, and if you think about this, Chad, and I know you have lots of gun owners listening, to your show. Right now, we already have we have a federal law against stranger to stranger. If you buy a gun over the Internet and you have it shipped to you, it has to go to a gun store for you to go pick it up. I mean, if you or I buy a gun over the Internet today, and it's shipped to a gun dealer, you have to go get a background check. The only way that you avoid that is if you buy a gun from someone on the Internet and you're willing to drive to wherever they live and pick it up. And so one of the problems in Chicago is there are tremendous amounts of guns sold in Indiana, stranger to stranger or straw man purchases, which is already against the law, where people know they're buying a gun for someone who shouldn't have it. And they're just driving from Indiana, to Chicago and delivering the guns. So let's not get down that rabbit trail. But look, we're never going to stop evil, Chad. The bad actors out there, the bad guys, are always going to be able to get a gun somehow. But not all of them are always going to be able to get a gun. And so had we had a stranger to stranger background check on this person in Midland, those 7 people might be alive today. And again, I'm not trying to interfere with a person's right to sell a gun. Chad, here's what people don't understand about the issue. They think that we're trying to go after, someone who inherits some guns and just wants to sell them. That happens. Or someone who has a big gun collection, they just want to sell them. Go to the gun show. They don't want to become a federally licensed firearm dealer. They just want to go sell their, guns. Okay, there are people who do that all the time. We're not interfering with that. We're just saying before you sell that gun to that stranger, just get a background check on the person. You should want to do that because, again, no one who inherits their guns from their family or selling some from their collection, no one responsible would ever want to think that the gun they sold was used to kill somebody.
Lieutenant Governor, I got a couple more questions for you that I want to get in here, and I know you've got to get going soon. So
I have all the time for you because it's an important issue.
Excellent.
I have all the time you have.
Excellent. And I know you said you wanted to have a conversation about this. I can tell you this, boy, you have kicked off a conversation on this. The feedback that I've gotten has not been good. I know there are others who have not had a lot of good feedback on this either.
Right.
There's been pushback even from our two current U.S. senators on the idea, even federally, of an expanded background check. What have you personally heard from folks, and do you think there's an appetite right now with the Texas Senate in the shape that it is to pass expanded background checks?
Yeah. I think, Chad, it's a great question. And again, I just want to be very clear on the facts that everyone's listening. I want to be sure that I say it right. You're giving me plenty of time to do it, which I greatly appreciate. Look, I'm just saying it needs to be part of the discussion, again, of the mental illness issues, the social media, the violent video games, all of those things. It needs to be part of the discussion. And if we are already getting, and again, we'll use the average number, 85% of all, we had 1.5 million background checks in Texas last year, Chad, 1.5 million. The NRA doesn't object to that. No one objects to that. So why are, and I carve out family and I carve out friends to friends, family to family. You want to sell, a gun to your buddy, whatever it is, that's fine. But stranger to stranger, why aren't we allowing this 4 or 5% or 6% of the population to be able to do this? And here's what you have to understand, Chad. There are people who don't care who they're selling their guns to, stranger to stranger. It's a big business because who are these buyers? These are buyers, Chad, who can't pass a background check. They don't want a background check. So if they can't buy their AR-15 at the gun store and they buy it from a total stranger, guess what? And let's just say that gun at the gun store is $2,000. The stranger who's selling it, this is big business for these people. They realize, hey, you're buying a gun from me because you don't want to go to the gun store. I'm going to charge you $4,000 for it. This is big money. So there are people out there, not our responsible gun owners, not you, me, and everybody listening, but there are people out there who are making a huge profit, basically an unlicensed gun dealer, selling guns to people, and they don't care how the gun is being used. And it's a small group, 4 or 5%. So the pushback that you say, obviously, there are people really, but there's some. But yeah, I'm supposed to be a leader. The Lieutenant Governor of Texas, I've got an A or an A plus. I got an A plus rating from the NRA last session. I passed open carry. I passed campus as Lieutenant Governor campus carry. We passed every pro-gun bill that the NRA has given us. I mean, we passed their agenda last session. I'm a member of the NRA. I own it. I'm a strong gun owner. But I can tell you, Chad, when you ask me the response that I've been getting personally, so far, and I know lots of gun owners in this state, okay? I've had one person say, Dan, that's unreasonable. Only one. Everyone else, because everyone else is responsible, says, yeah, I don't want some stranger selling to a stranger a gun. They don't know who they're selling it to. And so there's 3 ways you get a gun, Chad, if you're a bad guy, okay? You steal it, or you buy it from a stranger. You steal it, or you have a straw man. And again, there's already federal law. That's when someone is buying guns for you that I already know you failed a background check. And let me tell you something about the background checks, how it does work. We say, well, it wouldn't stop it. We're never going to stop evil and all shooting and all violence. I get it. But we do have a responsibility to try to save those, as many lives as we can where possible. And since 1994, Chad, since background checks were again, no one objects to them in America today. Since 1994, 3 million people in the United States have been stopped from getting a gun because of the background check. And of that 3 million, over 750,000 were convicted felons who actually went to a gun store and tried to buy a gun.
Right.
They call it lie and try. They lie on the form, and then really nothing happens to them. And that's a law that needs to be tightened.
I got 5 minutes left, and we're pushing it by going 5 minutes. Radio. I'm pushing it going 5 minutes. I want your reaction to this because you've been blistered as well by Empower Texans. They recently, I think it was over the weekend, they released a commentary from Matt Rinaldi, former state representative.
Yes.
Dan Patrick, not Beto, is the biggest threat to Texas gun owners. What is your reaction? You've seen the tweets. You've seen the tweets from Michael Quinn Sullivan and the rest on Empower Texans, who have the ear of a lot of folks. What is your reaction to them?
Yeah, well, I can't worry about criticism if I'm going to be a leader. Look, this is not easy. When I took this position, I did it after all these people I visited in the hospitals, the visiting with the families who have been killed in gun crimes, seeing what's happening. And I just looked at all the facts, and I learned about it. And I said, wait a minute, 9 out of 10 people are getting a background check, and if we exclude family and friends, we're talking about 5 or 6%. Why are we carving out that group? And then, excuse me, the editorial, Matt's editorial is just full of holes. First of all, he says, I'm stopping all personal sales. No, I'm not. Carving out family and friends. Number 2, he says it leads to a national registry. It does not. He says in the editorial, well, you have to keep the paperwork for 20 years. No, you don't. There's no law that says that. That's for federally licensed dealers that have to hold it. But we would not pass a law in Texas if we do. Excuse me. That says if you sell your gun, have to hold the paperwork for 20. It's just bogus. And the idea, look, Chad, we got to focus in Texas on 2020 of beating Democrats. And quite frankly, Empower
is this
Texas,
why you've embraced that? Is polling to beat the Democrats?
No.
Okay.
No. I've embraced it because as I looked at the facts, I said, wait a minute. Why are we saying it's okay if 5% of the public or 6% of the public buys a gun from a stranger, or a stranger is selling a gun to someone and they don't care if the guy's a criminal? Why are we doing that?
Right.
When the rest of us are law-abiding citizens. And again, I'm not stopping it. I'm just saying, get a background check. If it's a total, Chad, you would never sell your gun. And I bet you 99% of the people listening right now in West Texas would never sell an AR-15 to someone who was a total stranger. Would never do it. But there are people out there who do it. And in this case of Midland, maybe that's what happened. We know it's happened elsewhere. We know that small 5% leads to a lot of the gun crime. In terms of Empower Texas, let me just answer that last question. The idea that Michael Quinn Sullivan and Empower Texas, or their scorecard, the media outlet, would suggest that me or Greg Abbott are more dangerous to Texas than Beto O'Rourke is offensive. We're just gun owners. We're law-abiding citizens. We love guns. We're Second Amendment supporters who have an opinion that maybe we ought to look at this. And this is like, the left does this all the time. If you're for marriage between a man and woman, they call you, you're homophobic. If you say we want to secure the border, say, oh, you're racist. If we say I don't want boys and girls to shower together in school, as I did, 2 sessions ago or last session on the bathroom bill, well, you just don't like transgender people. No, you can believe in something. I'm not anti-Second Amendment because I just have this view that maybe we need to look at this issue. And the fact that Michael Quinn Sullivan, who should be helping he could come out and say, for example, like the rest of us are saying, like we're having, say, look, Dan Patrick has a solid Second Amendment record. Greg Abbott, solid second. We are one of the most pro-gun states in the country, and the NRA will tell you that. Just about every law you can have, we passed. But we disagree with Dan on this. But for Empower Texans, that should be trying to elect Republicans. That's the position they take. We want conservatives. For them to call me out and say that I'm more of a threat to Texas than Beto O'Rourke. He really does want to take your guns. And or the Greg Abbott, you got to keep your. That was in there. You got to keep your eye on Greg Abbott. You got to keep your eye on James Dickey. This is crazy talk.
You have said in a tweet when you were tweeting back at Michael Quinn Sullivan, and this goes to another debate that we're having, and I agree with you on this. Release the audio tape of this meeting between Bonin, Burrows, and Michael Quinn Sullivan. I agree with you. Release the tape. You said that Michael Quinn Sullivan is destroying the Republican Party. What does that mean?
Well, here's what I meant by that. And Michael and I have been in the foxhole most of the time on the same side, and we've had some pretty good arguments. But Michael is just, for some reason, just lashing out again with this name calling, and so it's the way I feel about it. He recorded he had a meeting and he recorded the meeting. Okay, he said he did it to protect himself legally because he didn't know what was going to come up. Okay. But then he wrote about it. Well, he told everybody about what happened in the meeting. He didn't tell people at the time when he wrote the article he had a tape. And so Dennis responded, said, well, none of that's true. Well, of course, I knew when Michael wrote about it, he had a tape. I say I knew. I just knew. You wouldn't write something like that accusing the speaker of what he accused him of unless you could back it up. Otherwise, you're finished. So he comes out 3 days later and says, aha, I have a tape. But then he doesn't let anybody hear it unless you come into his secret, star chamber, at his lawyer's office and listen to it. And so we have this situation where it's just causing dissension. I mean, you had half the SREC basically say they want to get rid of the speaker and half defending. You have various counties saying they want the speaker to resign and the others want to defend him. You've got some members in the House that want him to step down and others who are defending it. And then most of the House members don't know what to do because they haven't listened to the tape. So my point is what he's destroying the party is we need to be united now more than ever, Chad, more than ever. The future of the country rests in this election coming up, and Texas plays a key part. If Michael wanted to record the meeting, okay. But once you write about it, and then once you say I have a tape, and they say, well, but I'm not going to let you hear it unless you come to my office. I mean, he called me a coward last week. I mean, this is the over-the-top rhetoric that we don't need to be doing in our party. He called me and everyone else, like the governor, a coward because we wouldn't come to his lawyer's office and listen to the tape secretly. Look, there is no governor, no lieutenant governor, no attorney general in any one of the 50 states who is going to go into anyone's lawyer's office and listen to a secret tape.
Lieutenant Governor, I got to go. Radio. I got to get going.
Here's the deal, Chad. I'm happy to listen to the tape. Michael can send it to me, and I will release it. I'm not taking up for the – look, if the tape is what it says and it's leaked out and the speaker needs to resign or they vote him out, so be it.
All right.
And if they decide to keep him, so be it. But you got to release the tape because we got to get this behind us. We got elections to take care of. We got Democrats to beat. That's my beef. If you're going to tape it and then hide it from the public, then just keep it in the drawer and don't talk about it. But once you tell everyone, I got a tape, but I'll only let you listen to it if you come to my lawyer's office, that's what's divisive and not helping our party. That's my only quibble with it.
I got you.
Big quibble. All right, thanks, Chad.
Thank you. That's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.